Got EJ Carrion with us. This is our new episode of Achieve the Goal, Facing Your Fears. Check it out, the link is in the bio.
Hey.
Do you have goals you want to achieve in life? Or a vision you want to turn into reality? It's not going to happen overnight. It's part of a process. And any process takes time. But what's involved in that process? It's what you'll find out. Welcome to Achieve the Goal, the web series.
So we just made it to Denver for what we thought was going to be a short layover, but it ended up being a 4.5 hour wait. So now we got to wait, but we about to get some work done. 6:26 local time, finally made it. Get ready to hop in the rental car and then head to the hotel.
Well, last year, you know what I'm saying?
Look at old Jack and Beanstalk looking, he's carrying his PJs.
This boy trying to copy me with the cutoff hoodie after he seen that thing.
I knew you were gonna say that.
First thing you comment, hey, if you had a link to the thing, I would've bought it.
I would've.
But you ain't got that.
How do you know I have it?
They even argue like brothers.
Alright, that's cool.
What's going on, guys? My name is Devin Lars. Thank you for tuning in. Today's episode is about facing your fears. I got one of my close friends with me, EJ Carrion. Today is a special episode because today, I guess, marks the 3-year anniversary of actually me speaking. And he was the first person that I met that kind of got me into speaking. And so we're gonna talk about it today.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like 3 years ago, I met this guy I was speaking, he was in the audience, and yeah, he's just like, I could tell that he had a lot to offer, you know, with what he's doing, with doing everything different. And so I asked him one time, I think maybe a year since that.
Yep. Yeah, year after.
Hey, if you want to speak. And so he started speaking. I think there was like maybe a couple hundred people, and we booked him for like 5 events. And he's never like spoke on a stage. And then like I remember the first presentation, you were like, oh, I don't know if I can like do this, and like we had to get him all juiced right before the presentation. And but no, I mean, you know, he's much better than he was the first time, but he still was definitely very dynamic, very impactful. So I mean, to now be in this auditorium where we're gonna have, you know, over 600 students all around Virginia coming to hear us speak about entrepreneurship, and the fact that we're still doing this together, man, is pretty cool.
Why don't you introduce yourself? And
yeah, definitely.
A little bit about yourself.
I'm the CEO of Student Success Agency. We're the first agency that represents teams instead of celebrities and athletes. LeBron James has an agent, Drake has an agent. Why can't every teenager have their own agent? So we help students get ready for life after high school by pairing them up with a personal agent, because most schools only have one counselor for every couple hundred students. And so it's better to have an agent in your pocket who's your personal wingman, wingwoman that can help you through the process.
Today's episode is all about facing your fears and about overcoming challenges that you dealt with. What are some of the challenges that you dealt with SSA, starting that, or just something that you overcome, and what are some principles and some takeaways that you could share with your experience?
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people, we were talking about this the other day about betting on your strengths, and I think why I admire what Devin is doing, what we're doing, and why I think we connect so well is because we're not technically betting on our strengths, we're betting on what we feel called to do. Because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you're wasting your time. And I feel like when we started SSA, it's a tech company. It's all ed tech, online pairing, video chat, text messaging system. It's, you know, we're developing an app. And I know 0 line of code. I never ran a tech company in my entire life, managing tech people and people like that. I've always been a speaker, an author, doing those type of things. So it's out of my comfort zone. And so realizing like the time it's gonna take, the amount of failure in order for me to learn how to do it. I failed so much. It's been 4 years since we started Student Success Agency, and like to see where we are today is because of all the rapid failure I've gone through, from losing, you know, 6-figure clients to, you know, losing a lot of top agents, things like that, and students not liking the program. I mean, you try to put all your blood, sweat, and tears in something, and it's not good enough yet. So, I mean, it's a constant failure. And I mean, shoot, I'm still dealing with fires today, but it's something I realize I'm growing at an exponential rate as an individual.
So what's one principle that you can share that kind of helps you face your fears and get over the fear of not being a tech guy, but stepping into that lane?
Yeah. To me, you know, I think failure, you know, is rapid learning. I think you should crave failure as much as possible. And I mean, one of the things I always see with fear is usually that is the thing we're supposed to be doing. We fear something. It's usually at the point where we self-sabotage ourselves. And so, you know, all the great speakers, all the great books out there have some type of acronym for fear. And the one I really resonate with is false experiences appearing real. All right, these things look like there's something there, a monster, a boogeyman, or whatever the case is. That's what your fears are, but they're really all facades, things you're not even, you know, you're making it glorified than what it actually could possibly happen. And so when you really sit back and say, what's the worst that can happen? You know, and I think you realize that it's not actually that bad.
I agree. Now, to take it back to my first speech, that was in Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
It was horrible. I remember I've always been an introverted person. I've always been a person that was shy, never really liked to talk in class. I was the person that always, you know how you have to introduce yourself in class? I was always the person that tried to go to the bathroom because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to speak in front of people. So I was always like that. And I remember I met EJ on the Extreme Entrepreneurship Tour. And I remember I was sitting in the audience, it was at Chabot College, and I was watching him and another speaker, and I was sitting in the audience saying that I would really want to do this one day, but I'll never be able to do it. That's just not me, it's not in my character. I would never, ever be able to do that. And so after the event, I actually came up to EJ and introduced myself, let him know what we were doing. We had, I guess that was in 2013?
Yeah.
Or 2012.
Yeah, you heard me speak in 2012. You spoke 2013.
Yeah, okay, so in 2012. So we were getting our business started. We kind of were in a growing process, and we stayed in touch. I think I added you on Facebook.
Yeah.
So we stayed in touch, and about a year later, he actually contacted me and said, "Hey, would you like to come speak on the tour?" And at this point, I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And Laura, one of the tour managers, sent me some dates, and she booked me for 5 events before I even got through the first one. And I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I'm about to fail. Like, I'm nervous. 5 events back to back. I didn't know really what to do. And so I went and told my mentor what was happening, and he said, "Look, you can do it. You just need to practice." And so I remember I practiced. I put the speech together. I was super nervous. And I remember the day of going to the actual event, I was in the hotel, I was shaking the whole time. I was like super nervous. I don't know why. I was like really nervous. But I got on stage and I spoke and I bombed. It was horrible.
What's your mentor say?
So after the speech, my mentor actually drove all the way from the Bay Area to, what was it, in Santa Barbara. So that was what, like a 4-5 hour drive. And I'll never forget, man, I came outside after the event, all the kids were around trying to take pictures with me, and he just had this look. And he stopped me and told me, "If you ever do that again, don't introduce me as your mentor." And like, seriously, like at this point, I was like, dang, I didn't know what I wanted to do. This was the first event out of 5 that I had to do. And he told me literally, if you do this again and you bomb and crash like this again, don't introduce me as your mentor. And so I spoke to EJ and he was like, "No, you did good for your first one. You did good for your first one." My mentor was like, "Nah, it was horrible." And so he said that you have to practice. Like, you literally have to you have to practice. And so we ended up going back to the Bay, back home, and my mentor brought me into his conference room and he sat me down and he said, "Look, you need to practice, just go over the speech." And I like kept trying to do it and he was like, "You're just forcing it, just talk, stop forcing it." And so I remember we were sitting in this conference room, it was just me and him, and I was going over the speech, and he was like, "Hold on, man, you have audience members, why are you just staring at me?" So he went in the back room and got a piece of paper and started drawing on this paper. I'm like, "What is he doing?" And he laid all these papers across the conference room, and they're little smiley faces.
Yeah.
So it was like audience members.
Yeah.
And I remember after I got done with the first go around, one of the papers had like fell over the speakers, and he was like, "Look, man, you put them to sleep." Like, "You're horrible, man. Like, come on, get this together." And so, long story short, we just kept practicing, kept going over the speech, kept getting prepared for it. The next speech was UC Merced, I believe. Yeah, UC Merced. And he drove out there again, and he seen it, and this time was like completely different. Like I was prepared. And he came off, after I came off stage, he came up to me and he was like, "That's what I'm talking about." And he was like super, super excited. But I remember going home and telling my mom, like, I'm gonna get over this. Like, I'm gonna get past my fear of speaking. I don't know how, but I'm gonna do it. And I was determined. So I think out of that story, that lesson that I've learned is that, like you said, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah. See, there's different ways of saying it. Yeah, false experience is what the one I'm comfortable with. But yeah, evidence works as well. Yeah,
and I think that's so true, because it comes to a point where it's like, there's always a time where you think something's gonna happen and you're nervous about it, and it never ends up coming true.
Yeah.
And so I think that was my biggest thing. I was worried about something that necessarily wasn't gonna happen. And when I took myself in a situation and I took myself out of the situation when I spoke, I had to look at it like the message that I'm providing is for the audience. It's not about me. And once I took that pressure off of myself and I made the message about the audience, it kind of subdued the nerves, and I wasn't as nervous. So I think the main thing is just being prepared, testing out what you want to do, and just having the guts to go and do it, and learning from it. And I think that from that experience, it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think the main thing is just going after what you want, and not caring what people say, and just living fearless. Because if you live in a situation of fear, you're always gonna regret stuff. Like, I think you have a great story a skydiving story about your friend regretting something.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's important to just go out and face your fears and go after what you want, because I think right outside of your comfort zone, if you go outside of that area, you'll find some things that are amazing.
There's two types of people. There's people who sit around and think, oh, they're gonna try something and it's gonna sound perfect, and so they don't do anything unless it sounds perfect. And then there's others who ship, and that's where you ship everything you do and don't be afraid to do something. And you have to allow haters to talk. You have to allow for feedback. That's the only way you're gonna get better. I mean, this is your third video series?
Third, yeah.
When we have like a 300th video series, it'll be like P. Diddy falling from the sky, and then like we're gonna have like dragons and then fire. It's gonna be crazy. So it's just like, we're gonna get better at providing content to people as well. Like, all of this is a process, and that's how it works.
And I think the main thing is just, like you said, people want to be perfect right off the bat, and nothing's ever going to be perfect when you first start. And understanding that everything is a process and everything takes time. And the thing is, a lot of people are scared to have that criticism. And I think where I excel, and I think that a principle that you guys can take with you, is getting used to getting feedback. I think that I'm really good at taking feedback, even though it hurts and it doesn't feel good. I remember there's a lot of times where I come to EJ and like, all right, just tell me the truth. How did I do? How did the speech go? Where can I improve? What do you think? What's your opinion? And I think being able to not be defensive and being able to take that criticism, because at the end of the day, it's only going to make you stronger. So I think that's a big principle that people have to get used to, because a lot of people don't want to hear about themselves because it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. The older you get, the realize how dumb you really are. I think that's what's a big thing. So when the older you get, you're like, yo, no offense, give it to me. Tell me how it is, because I know that I need to be better.
Yeah.
So that's just part of it. I think being able to take feedback is such a great strength of great entrepreneurs, creatives, leaders. I definitely think you got to be able to embrace feedback, especially if you're willing to give it.
And the main thing is, I think too, what's really important is finding a mentor, finding somebody that could be honest.
That's really cool.
Because a lot of people sometimes will be like, oh no, you did good, or this and this, and try to sugarcoat it. But it's like, no, you need to get it straight up. No sugarcoating about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way that you're gonna grow and be able to evolve and be able to do things like that. And I think that's very extremely important. Do you have any mentors?
I feel like, I have some good speaking mentors. I feel like that is something for someone who runs agents for students and they give every kid's agents. It'd be nice to have my own agent, you know, a little, you know, I could do better at that. But I mean, even things like this to me is like having mentorships, having access to, you know, Devin's videos, other people's videos, gurus, books. I use books a lot. So people I've never met yet, you know, who I'm connecting with through, you know, 300 pages of their thoughts. You know, you could really have an intimate relationship with someone over a book that you've never even met. So I do a lot of reading, but in a sense of business, like what you have with your mentor, I think that's really special, man. And yeah, I think that's something I should be, you know, taking as an action step from this video.
I think what's important too is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to create not just us talking to the camera. We want to create some sort of interaction between the viewers and stuff. So we started this new thing called Goal of the Week. Yeah. And so basically, Goal of the Week is, because sometimes when you don't have accountability it's just yourself, you don't hold yourself accountable, so you end up slipping on things. So we started this thing called Goal of the Week, where we're setting up small goals for people to kind of accomplish and to set for themselves. Instead of focusing on a big goal, you could chop it up into small goals. So this week's Goal of the Week is going to be facing your fears. Do one thing this week that you were scared of or fearful of in the past, whether that's going up and talking to a girl or whatever it is that you're scared to do. Go up and do something this week. It could be small, but do something that you've always been fearful of. And leave a comment, tag it, let us know what it is, give us some feedback, let us know, hold yourself accountable, put it out there, because if you don't put it out there and you just keep it in your head and to yourself, sometimes it's hard to obtain. So I think that this is some sort of, like, if you don't have a mentor, this is sort of a platform that you could kind of use to hold yourself accountable and create that mentorship and stuff. So
awesome, buddy.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Leave some comments, share this, subscribe to the channel, post it with your friends, and let us know what you think. Peace. You know, we'll come and speak, and it's like, it's cool, it sounds good, but then it's like, you only have 30 minutes, so I can't really go into detail of like how we did it and how we got past our fears and like how we like kept moving despite what anybody said. So we wanted to create this web series that shows people that they can actually follow, and we give them like little goals and action steps to do to kind of turn their vision into reality.
From Chatham High School, the speech you just gave a few days ago, I know you probably don't remember me, but I just wanted to let you know that speech you gave me was very motivational and inspiring.